And welcome everybody to our live stream. Live stream means we are live. This is actually happening as you watch it. It is Thursday. We normally do this on Friday. But we're coming up on the Labor Day weekend, so we're taping our Huckabee show for TBN on Thursday instead of Friday. Pam Case, senior producer for the Huckabee show, is with me, as she always is. She'll be reading the questions that we'll be getting from you, and we hope you will send them in. So be sure and give us your questions, but be sure also you can send us a super chat, which is always even better. There'll be moderators watching the chat as well. And we hope that you will subscribe to the channel. That's important, to subscribe. That way you will know when we're going to be doing things. And I know that you find it worthwhile. Be sure to hit the notification bell. That way we will let you know. Put a comment down. Tell us if you like it, if you have suggestions. We actually care about your suggestions. And it's important that you mark the like part. That's important because we like to be liked. That's important. And then share it with others, especially right now. We're just getting started. So send the share with friends of yours that you think would either enjoy it or would really get messed up by watching it. You know, you may have some friends on the far left and just triggering them. Hey, you've done dumber things and even meaner things. So you can do that as well. This has been a really huge news week. And of course, the big story has been what's happening in Afghanistan. And let's just say the disastrous exit. Most sadly, we have left Americans behind, and we knew we were doing it. And we kept the deadline because apparently for some reason known only to God and Joe Biden, keeping that arbitrary deadline was more important than the American citizens that we had stuck in Afghanistan. Now, the day after, President Biden came out to the White House and he gave one of what I thought was one of the most bizarre speeches I've seen a president make, in light of the fact that even his friends in the media, CNN and ABC and NBC, were roundly criticizing the manner in which the exit happening. They calling it chaotic and disorganized. He came out and almost broke his arm. What he deemed as one of the most wonderful and scary history. And apparently he was the only one that way. But on one hand, he talked about how the intelligence community had failed to foresee that the Taliban would so rapidly, in a matter of hours, take the whole country. And then he turned around and praised the intelligence community for such a great job, thinking, Joe, it can't be both. If they had no idea this was going to fall out this way, then I don't think you ought to be complimenting for how brilliant they were and what a great operation this was. Now, we got 100,000 people out. You know what's interesting? A lot of those 100,000 were not the people who were either American citizens, nor were they the translators and Afghan fighters who worked with us and saved American lives. And by the way, can I just tell you that one of the most outrageous things is that when they were saying, well, we weren't sure they were translators, but they didn't speak English. Think about it. So a person that says, I'm a translator, do you speak English? No. Clip. This is Joe Biden bragging about how great the evacuation was and talking about the fact that, great as it was, we still left 10% of Americans stranded.
Last night in Kabul, the United States ended 20 years of war in Afghanistan, the longest war in American history. We completed one of the biggest airlifts in history, with more than 120 people evacuated to safety. That number is more than double what most experts felt were possible. No nation has ever done anything like it in all of history.
I'm just stunned by the fact that he truly believes that the number of people we got out is more important than who those people were. Interestingly, there were many Americans who were waving their blue passports at the gate, some of whom got in and then were told by the State Department and the military that despite that they had gotten themselves to the airport at great danger, gotten themselves through that chaotic nonsense and crowd, They still were not allowed to get on an airplane, but somehow we got 100,000 Afghanis out, some of whom could be, for all we know, terrorists. We have no idea who they are. They had no paperwork. Their biometrics did not fit anything, which means we have no record of them ever having helped us. But they got out and citizens didn't. Wasn't just Joe Biden who was defending all this. His lackeys like Jen Psaki, the White House press secretary, and John Kirby, former admiral of the Navy, who is now the spokesperson at the Pentagon. They both had their own spin on how great this was. Let's watch both of them.
President Biden at one point promised that U.S. troops would stay until all American citizens who wanted to get out got out. And there are still American citizens there and U.S. troops are gone. So if the military assesses that these 100 plus Americans are under imminent threat, what's the military prepared to do about it?
Our job is to provide options to the commander in chief, but it's not to make policy. And I think I just leave it right at there, John.
All right, that was John Kirby from the Pentagon. Here's Jen Psaki from the White House also talking about the hostage situation, which is really what we have there.
Administration preparing for worst case scenario in some circumstances, hostage situations?
Look, our focus right now is on making clear to the Taliban and to others in Afghanistan that we are going to get these American citizens out, that we are going to hold them to that account. And that's our focus. Thanks, everyone.
Iran-related question.
I'll be back tomorrow.
You told me that yesterday. Can I ask you, now that I have you right now,
Thank you.
Yeah, I think she put that mask on not for COVID, but to cover up her mouth, which was wide open, saying, oh my gosh, I got to get out of here. I can't handle these questions. I mean, I've never seen someone exit so quickly and abruptly, but how do you answer that? The truth is, we are setting ourselves up for a hostage situation with Americans. And the worst is her answer, as lame as it could be, oh, we trust the Taliban to let them out. That ought to work great. I can't think of anything more brilliant as a strategy to get Americans out than to just ask the good old boys of the Taliban, why don't you let those people out? Folks, if the Taliban would have let them out, don't you think they would have done it when we still had military personnel and American planes lined up on the runway to take them out? And if we left without those Americans when we had some firepower, what on earth gives us the idea that now they're going to escort them over to the airport and let them go? I know we're getting some questions. We're going to go to them now. Pam, what do we have?
I want to go back a week when we had a super chat from God's Girl, Matthew 6:33. Threw a couple of dollars in there, so I want to make sure we mention this. A great way to start. Pray and stand against this evil no matter what. God went before us and protects our rear guard. The battle is won. Go share the gospel. It is urgent.
Excellent.
So I just wanted to share that as we got started today. This is an interesting one from Blood Orange, who states Instagram and Facebook blocked the mother of one of the soldiers who passed. Big tech needs to be banned in America.
Yeah, Blood Orange, I couldn't agree with you more. This is really frightening when what has become basically news source for over 50% of the American people, like Facebook, and they decide what people can hear. And if you say anything unkind about the Biden administration or the left, you get banned, which means your voice is snuffed out. I hope somebody with deep pockets finds a way to sue these platforms. I don't think the government's going to do it. I tell you, our guest last week, Vivek Ramaswamy, who was here with us in his book, Woke Incorporated, had the best understanding of why it is that the government doesn't do anything, because they don't want to. These private tech companies are doing something the government can't. The government can't censor, but private companies claim they have the power to do it, and they're doing it. So they're doing it on behalf of the leftists in the government who don't have the power to do it. That's even more frightening. So I was disturbed by that you have a Gold Star mom who is told she can't talk about her son. But then again, it ought to disturb us. You know who still has a Twitter account? The Taliban. Think about that. The Taliban can tweet. You know who can't? President Trump. How on earth could that be? All right.
A reminder that we are live right now. And so this is your opportunity to be one-on-one with Governor Huckabee and share, just like Marion Kay is. She tells us that it's very hard to think about praying for them, but I am. And I'm praying for their salvation and for wisdom and knowledge of the truth. It's about all I can work up to. It's hard. Mostly I pray removal.
Well, I appreciate that, Marion Kay. I don't even know what to add to that other than amen. I think that would be the best way to say it. Thank you for contacting us and weighing in with your thoughts. And we hope that all of you will. You can get in touch with us on the live chat right now. And be sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and leave us a comment. We'll take to heart what you say. It may be a suggestion. Be sure to like our chat and share it with other people that you think might enjoy being a part of what we're doing. I want to play another clip. This is from the Biden speech. He basically blamed the Afghans for the problems. And there's two clips. We're going to just put them together. And it has to do with essentially saying, hey, the collapse was their fault. Let's watch.
But I still instructed our national security team to prepare for every eventuality, even that one. And that's what we did. So we were ready when the Afghan security forces, after 2 decades of fighting for their country and losing thousands of their own, did not hold on as long as anyone expected. In April, I made a decision to end this war. As part of that decision, we set the date of August 31st for American troops to withdraw. The assumption was that more than 300,000 Afghan national security forces that we had trained over the past 2 decades and equipped would be a strong adversary in their civil wars with the Taliban. That assumption that the Afghan government would be able to hold on for a period of time beyond military drawdown turned out not to be accurate.
That's not entirely accurate, Mr. President. Let me just help you to understand that you said that the Afghans sort of quit fighting. Well, I wonder how much that had to do with their having the rug swept out from under them unexpectedly when you took all the air cover away, which was absolutely essential for them to be able to fight. And when you took away all of the intelligence gathering that the U.S. had been providing and the equipment, which you left for the Taliban. Think about that, $85 billion worth of military hardware. You didn't leave that with the Afghans, you left it with the Taliban. So when you say that Afghans decided to just give up and not fight, I think they thought, well, the Americans have betrayed us. They have utterly betrayed us. And they've left us out here with nothing. And if they're going to leave us, at least leave the equipment to us, not to our enemy. And now so these Afghan soldiers are getting shot with the very stuff that they used to be able to use against their enemies. This is bizarre. And I don't know how in the world the press doesn't call Joe Biden out on this. It's pretty unpleasant. Look, 90,000 Afghans have died in this war, 90,000. And so I think they have paid a pretty heavy price. They have fought. But they're no match for an international wave of terrorism coming in and being supported and helped by the Iranians. So it's just a tragedy. I'm just stunned at what Biden said in this speech. Pam, we got some more questions?
We do, and so many with us today, including a super chat today from Laurie E. Thank you, Gov Huckabee, for your show, and with everyone calling for Biden to be impeached, which he should. But how is that going to help when we will just get Harris? What is your opinion?
Well, truth is, he's not going to be impeached as long as the Democrats hold the House. That's simply not going to happen. The votes are never there. It'll never get brought up. Nancy Pelosi is never going to let that happen. But let's roll the clock for it. Let's say that Republicans take the House in 2022, which I think after this debacle, surely they will. And Republicans could bring it up. If they're in the majority, they could actually bring articles of impeachment. They could send them to the Senate, and that's where they will go and die. Because even if Republicans get a majority in the Senate, they're not going to have 2/3 of the Senate voting. I say that, I mean, I can't even imagine the mountain of evidence that would have to be presented to get any Democrats to vote for Joe Biden's removal, even if they were able to get the impeachment of the House. There's a side of me that says I'd like to see them pursue it simply to get the evidence out there, knowing that it's not going to result in his removal. But what could happen is similar to what happened when Richard Nixon was under the threat of impeachment. I remember, because I was in college at the time, he didn't get impeached, but the articles were prepared and he was about to see that process, and he resigned before it got there. That's maybe what could happen. You're right, though, about saying that if we have Kamala Harris, I don't know that we can say we have a real statesman in the White House, and somebody that can do much more than cackle at the most inappropriate times, as she has been known to do. So let's just face it, folks, we're in a world of hurt. And I want to say to all my friends out there, and I've got some who were never Trumpers, couldn't stand the tweets because they were mean and didn't like President Trump's personality. I sure hope you're happy. I hope you're enjoying paying $2 a gallon more for gas and more for groceries. I hope you're proud of what's happened by us leaving stranded Americans in a hateful, hostile country. I hope that gives you great pleasure. I hope that it gives you pleasure to know that we went from being a very pro-life administration, prohibiting tax dollars spent on abortion, to one that immediately flipped the switch and started spending money on abortions. I could go through a litany of things, but for those of you who didn't like the personality of Donald Trump, I hope you realize that the personality of Joe Biden isn't exactly warm and fuzzy. I've never in my lifetime, going back to all the presidents that I can remember, including Eisenhower, I can never remember a president who would say, yeah, we left 10% of our Americans behind and they're on their own, but it was a great success getting the 90% out. And if you're happy with that, then Joe's your guy, but he ain't mine.
Gov, we have so many that want to hear from you today. And of course, we are live one-on-one with Governor Huckabee today from Belgium, Florida. We have Arkansas, hometown, Texas, Iowa, Michigan as well, New York State. And I just want to make sure that you know that we've got so many from all over wanting to hear from you today. Erica Kane says, with all the catastrophic things done by the Biden administration, why are we the people being subject to such governmental enforces? The country shut down, soldiers being killed, Americans left behind, etc.
It's disturbing, Erica. I mean, I think all of us are just somewhat shell-shocked by the fact that our country doesn't resemble the America that we've grown up in, where we had free speech, we had freedom of movement. There was a sense of tolerance, and diversity really existed. People didn't look at each other depending on what color they were. We've come a long way in this country. We've certainly never been perfect, and we're not now, but we're better than we were. And yet you have people who think that America's done nothing right and everything wrong. I just don't see it that way. And I've lived through a few things. And I think we are a country that is the envy of the world. Have you ever seen anyone hanging on to the side of an airplane that was taking off from America to go somewhere else? They were so desperate to get out of here that they were willing to do it. I've heard of a bunch of Hollywood celebrities who every time there's an election they don't like, they promise they're going to leave. Guess what? They never leave. Why not? Why don't they leave? If this is such a terrible place and they say, I'm going to leave if Trump gets elected or if Bush gets elected, then they end up staying. I mean, I don't get that. Well, I do, because they're liars. They don't really believe America's that bad. They just want to keep saying it because that's the thing that the left wants to do, is to destroy the country. But we are grateful that you are here, and we're grateful that you're part of our live chat, and we hope that you will subscribe to our channel. That way you'll know when we're going to be coming up with content. Hit the notification bell so we can let you know when we're there. Comment on your thoughts, whether you like or don't like. But be sure to like the chat and share it with other people.
Another great question and a super chat from Super Kendall 100 asking, with the 2020 election going as it did, what makes you think that 2022 could be any different?
I think there'll be a greater vigilance on the part of people at the local level where this has to happen. We don't really have federal elections. That's why we don't want that bill in Congress to pass, because we don't want to federalize them. They should be locally controlled. But there's going to be a lot more vigilance after some of the problems that we saw in 2020. And ultimately, we just have to be prepared to go vote. We've seen some major things. I mean, look, we flipped several House seats from Democrat to Republican, many of them in California. Now, that's a shock to a lot of folks. It was then, which proves we can win elections. We're not really, what I would say, prohibited or unable to win tough elections. We just have to work really, really hard at it.
Jet Gardner has written in and says the mess to be cleaned up is Trump's. He made and signed the agreement with the Taliban that got us into this mess. Biden only honored it. For your reaction.
Well, that's totally untrue. I hate to be so blunt, but that's just not the case. First of all, President Trump did make a plan to get us out by the end of May. The difference was that he made it very clear to the Taliban that they would cooperate and that they would let every American out and all of our translators and all of our Afghan partners. And if they didn't, that he basically would hit them with a mother of all bombs, as he did with Syria before. This is nothing like the deal. And something I absolutely don't understand when people say, well, Joe Biden just inherited Trump's deal. Look, Joe Biden inherited a lot of things Trump was doing, like a secure border. He reversed it. He inherited a pro-life administration. He reversed it. He inherited an energy independent America the first time in over 60 years, and he reversed it. He inherited the Keystone Pipeline, and he shut it down. He inherited a strong economy and reversed it. He inherited a vaccination plan and never gave credit to the person he got it from. So this idea that poor old Joe was stuck with Trump's plan, I mean, wake up and smell the hot chocolate, pal. Get on, the truth train here and realize that Biden changed every single thing Trump ever did. So for him to say that this was the one thing that he couldn't change, I mean, it doesn't pass even the smell test of a skunk. It just doesn't. So appreciate your sending the idea, but that dog don't hunt.
All right. A thank you to Hedge Witchy Mama who for a super chat. Hello. And Bob is asking for us this afternoon, Governor, is the media faking outrage over Afghanistan just to cover up the atrocious spending bill that the Democrats are pushing through?
I think that there are some members of the media who are so shocked by what they've seen in the last couple of weeks. Let me give you a couple of examples. Richard Engel from NBC, he's done something that I think will probably get him fired from that network. He's practiced honest journalism. And he's called out what's happened over there as a total disaster. And then this one was another shocker. Calissa Ward from CNN, which normally always covers for Joe Biden. And her reporting has been explicitly clear in what an absolute disaster we have created as a country for getting Americans out. She finally got out. She was anything but kind. And there have been some glimmers of hope, even in the White House press room, with people finally beginning to push back on Jen Psaki. Of course, they don't get to ask President Biden questions because he turns his back and walks away every time he makes one of these almost insufferable speeches where he screams at the teleprompter while squinting his eyes. And you wonder, does he know what he's saying? Because sometimes you get the impression he doesn't. So let's hope that maybe not all, but a few of the people in the media will start doing their jobs. And that is objectively asking hard questions on behalf of the rest of us.
So if you're enjoying the opportunity to chat one-on-one with Governor today, we love it. We love that you're participating. So make sure you subscribe, do that with us today. And of course, ring the bell and you'll be notified. We go live. We try our best to do this every single week. So let me see if I can find another one. Oh, this is interesting. Roger Scott is asking, can Biden get court-martialed?
No. I've heard people bring that up. And here's the reason he can't. He is a civilian. You can only court-martial members of the military. He is commander-in-chief of the military, but he is a civilian commander. Just as the Secretary of Defense, even though he has been a general, he is not a general right now. He is a civilian leader of the military, and civilians cannot be court-martialed. It's unconstitutional. I want to also play this clip. This is a Gold Star father. This is one of the men whose son was killed at the terror attack at the Kabul airport. And he had reluctance about even going to the transfer at Dover, but he did it for his son, not for President Biden. And here was his kind of remembrance of how things went down.
I felt I owed it to my son to at least have some words with him about how I felt. And it didn't go well. He talked a bit more about his own son than we did my son, and that didn't sit well with me.
There were several of the Gold Star families who indicated that when President Biden talked to them, instead of saying, as one would typically do when you're the consoler in chief, you'd ask about, tell me about your daughter. Tell me about your son. What did he like to do? Tell me what you'll remember about and what will always be special to you. You ask the questions that let them talk about that person that will never be at the dinner table with them ever. The things that bring warmth and special. Instead, he brushed off, according to several of these Gold Star families, their sentiments about their child. He said, well, I know how you feel, and let me tell you about my son, who tragically died, but of cancer, not combat. And so it's not the same. And he doesn't know how they feel. One of the worst things, let me just say generally, that you can ever say to someone who's just lost a family member, whether it was in combat or a car wreck, you never want to say, I know how you feel, because you don't. Even if the person has experienced something similar, none of us know how another person feels. We may say, I know how I felt when this happened to me, but I can never say to somebody, I know how you feel. That's arrogant, it's pompous, and it's incredibly inappropriate at a time like that. A lot of the Gold Star families were offended, as was I, when the president, in the dignified transfer, kept looking at his watch. I mean, I can't think of anything more disrespectful to a group of people who have lost their sons or daughters than to sort of give the impression, we about finished with this because, I tell you, man, how long is this going to take? I mean, you just don't look at your watch at a time like that. And I tweeted this week, I remember George H.W. Bush, Bush 41, in the 1992 debate with Bill Clinton and Ross Perot, he looked at his watch during the debate. Well, it was a debate that, frankly, we were all looking at our watch. We were bored stiff with it. But, I mean, he got just excoriated for looking at his watch during the debate. Like, man, I just can't wait to get out of here. I don't blame him. I'd have felt the same way. But this is not a debate. This is the death of American servicemen and women. And he acted like he just was pretty well had it with the whole ceremony and needed to move on and get somewhere, I guess, for an ice cream cone or whatever it was he felt like he needed to get to.
Governor, the calendar shows us that we're just a little more than a week away from 9/11. Louise Sultana is asking, what shall we expect on 9/11?
Well, I hope we do not see the Taliban take advantage of having chased us out of Afghanistan and do something outrageous. That's my greatest fear. The other thing I fear is that maybe Americans would forget what did happen 20 years ago. That we would forget that there are radical Islamists in the world, not all Muslims. I'd say overwhelmingly in the world today. Muslims don't hate us. They don't naturally want to kill us. But there is an extreme element of Islam. They do want to kill us. And I was chatting with a young lady. She grew up in Iran. She now works with Assyrian Christians. There used to be 1.5 million Assyrian Christians in Iraq. There's now 150,000. So their numbers have been reduced by 90%, which tells you how dangerous it has been to be a Christian there. But in talking with her, I think what reminds me is that what do they want? By they, what do the radical Islamists want? And the truth is, they want us to bow to their religion, to their faith. And if we don't, kill us. I don't know how else to put it. That's blunt. But let's not forget that's what 9/11 was about. It was not just to scare us. It was to say, we're patient, but we're going to kill you. We're going to destroy your country. And they really do want to do that. And I hope we're not so stupid that we don't forget that. And I hope on 9/11 that we will remember what happened and that we will pray it doesn't ever happen again.
Amen. El Star, also a super chatter. Is that a word, I guess? Today, she says, keep praying for America and her citizens. Yeah.
Well, I sometimes have to tell myself it's the only real hope we have is spiritual revival. I don't see a political revival taking place. Quite frankly, I worry because even among those who philosophically maybe are on the same side I am, a lot of them just don't have enough courage to stand up and fight back. They just want to be, they want to be loved. They want to be welcomed on CNN and MSNBC and be invited to all the cool cocktail parties in Georgetown and the rest of the suburbs of Washington. And they're not willing to stand up and fight for America. I see glimmers of hope. Parents in California who stood up against the teacher who said she wouldn't have a U.S. flag in her classroom and told the students that if they wanted to pledge allegiance, they could pledge allegiance to the gay pride flag instead. She's under administrative leave. Or the teacher whose antics in class included putting pictures of communist leaders like Mao Zedong all over the wall and telling people that those were the real heroes. He got fired, as he should have. These are taxpayer-funded teachers. But the good news is not that they got fired. The good news is they got fired because parents had enough of it. And that's what has to happen. This is not just about screaming at Washington. This is going to your local school board and your local city council. And when they want to take down a statue of Abraham Lincoln or Thomas Jefferson or George Washington, there's got to be some people at the local level who say, no, you're not. No, you're not. And if they do it anyway, you fire them at the next election.
DM is asking, how about the southern border? Did another 200,000 come across in August?
I don't know the numbers, quite frankly, DM, but that'd be, to me, a minimal number that probably came across. We obviously have not taken that very seriously. This administration has talking about the things that President Biden reversed from Donald Trump. We had a secure border. We were keeping the stay in Mexico policy. That got reversed, and boy, the floodgates opened. And now we have people, by the way, we don't know where they are. We don't know whether they got COVID. They're not wearing masks. They haven't been vaccinated. And if vaccination and mask are all that important for you or for me, then shouldn't they be important for people that come across our border illegally? We don't know who they are, why they're going where they're going. I would think so, but apparently not to everyone in this administration.
All right, Marlon K. Gov says, I hear that businesses can't find workers. Schools can't find school bus drivers. You can set up a job fair at the unknown bus destinations of refugees and border crashers.
Yeah, Marlene, I think a lot of the folks who are crashing the border, they're not coming for jobs. Now, some are, and thank goodness. We have some of the best workers that are working in America who have come as immigrants, and thank God for them. About the only people I sometimes see working. But we're paying people to not work. And when that happens, people don't work. It's pretty stupid. We're $300 bonus a week for the people not working. So you add the $300 with their unemployment and they're making more money staying home. I got a better idea. Give the $300 to the people who will go to work. Give them the bonus money. I bet you'd change the employment situation pretty quickly. Well, we're out of time. Marlene, thank you for your question, and thank all of you for joining us here on the chat today. I hope you've enjoyed it. Be sure to leave your questions in the comments section, or you can always go and email us. We can even look at it for next week. Email us at my2cents@tbn.tv. I hope you'll subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so we can tell you when we're coming, and be sure to watch the show tomorrow night, Huckabee on TBN, 8 and 11 Eastern, 7 and 10 Central, and again on Sunday night at 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central, right here on TBN or Facebook Live.